record. Okay, so I will use a regular pencil. I didn't sharpen it, so I will sharpen it a little bit. I use a 3B. It doesn't matter what the pencil you like to use. But when do demonstration, I shouldn't do too light, so the camera cannot catch it. So it's better to be darker than the usual need. So yes, pencil. Okay, so I will draw the head right in the middle. But when you see the camera, um, probably it's a little bit side because one difficulty is my lighting have a big shadow of my of easel. Another is uh, I should not make the cell phone block my own face, right? So I put it a little bit side, so a little bit distorted. But when I finish, I will move it to the middle for you to see the actual. So at the very beginning, I start with outlining the the head. Usually, I like to start with the head and the neck and the shoulders. This is something like you always need to compare them each other. Okay, it's very important. The head and the neck and the shoulder. So this is the shape you need to compare. Um, and also the size of the head. Don't do it too big. Even I'm using the paper bigger than yours. But I should not make the head too big. Usually the life size is the maximum for a drawing, a life size. So a head shouldn't be that big. So this is the size like maximum. And at the very beginning, we needed to one is to hold the pencil softly. Don't like it handwriting way. Don't do like this way, but more this way to hold your pencil, so you can draw more soft. So and then you need to find the big form at the very beginning. So of course, when we draw the photo, it's way easier than drawing from the real model. Photo is way easier. Okay, so it's like cheating. But anyway, teaching is okay. So you just consider I'm drawing from the model. So this is one. Find the big form. So we need to have a very instant feeling. So sometimes when we draw, don't be too much relaxed and easy. Sometimes people like to listen to music, be very relaxing. That's not a good habit. At the very beginning, you need a very intense, very quick, very motivated to work. So that your eye can scan your photo very quick to find that shape. And everyone's ability is different. I cannot say what is right, but you have to very fast to find. Another thing is for the whole head, we need a very quick to find a line. I call it like a tendency line. Usually on the photo, of course, it's easier. They just find the line, go through the middle of the eyebrow, uh, go through the middle of the chin, and you can connect them together. So this is the whole face tendency. So this line is important. Of course, when I do the sketch, I don't do this at all because I have very strong sense. I can keep that memory when I'm doing the whole work. Even I do not mark it, but at the very beginning, as a beginner, you need must need to mark it. And then another one, of course, always the level of your eye, the level of the eye. So sometimes when the model face is bowed down a little bit, so usually the eye to the chin a little bit shorter, the eye to the rest of the head a little bit longer. Okay, this is the regulation because of perspective. But if you look up to the model, this part could be longer, this part will be shorter. And sometimes if you look straight to the model, it's in the middle. So sometimes you learn that the proportion is in the middle. But in my work, so it's a little bit lower than the middle. And this tendency is very important. So this is something to do with the perspective. So if we consider we drawing the head like a box. So right now the situation is the box, the eyes is in this way. So we need to have everything. You know that this face part is just a one face of the box. The box have three different faces, right? So for this part, it's just a facial part of the box, and this line in future will be go cooperate with the rest of the line and go to a vanishing point somewhere out of my drawing board to a vanishing point. So although we're not actually located at the vanishing point, but we need to have a concept. There will be a vanishing point far away behind the face. Okay, and of course another side have another vanishing point. Right. So this part is something to do with the ear. So there's two different directions. So we draw this one. You know, very important to see how low is this eye, this side, how higher is this side. Most of the people at the beginning when they draw, they may confuse about that. Last time you did the skull, right? And many of you at the very beginning make this side eye frame small, that side big. That's because this tendency was not correct. Okay, but of course it's not only one line. It's a set of different lines go with the perspective on the same direction. So sometimes it's very hard for you to feel that. You need a long time practice to have that kind of perspective experience to make it right. So now I will work more on the eyebrow. And the nose could stick up a little bit, not necessarily on the same line because the nose is a sticking up. Nose and the mouth. Okay, then very important is you need to find the corner between the this side another side there is a corner. That means this corner of the box, right? Most of situation people cannot find it because it's very subtle. It's not so obvious like a line, but it's more like a border between two faces, right? So you must understand the existing this. But when you look at the photo, it's not like synchrony like this line, but only when you understand there's a line there, and then when you draw, you will know what's the perspective situation. So this side go up to the ear. So now I draw the, some people join. Yeah, you're joining late. Yeah, Haley, you're late. So Okay, so also the forehead. So this part is not that simple like this. It's more like go around here because of the structure of the eye and eyebrow, and then go up there, and then go over there. Because this part is the cranium, right? So basically, this part is like a sphere. So it's like a side of the sphere. So you need to remember this kind of structure, and then you can draw more detail. So everything you draw, if even you draw eyes, you need to consider it is symmetrical. In the structure, it is symmetrical, but the shape is different. It's not as symmetrical. Okay, so the physical structure is symmetrical. When you draw the shape, detail shape, you need to understand the existing of the perspective. So when you draw this side eye, it's of course it's bigger, uh, and this side eye is smaller. So we need always have this kind of idea. But I will focus on this detail. So you need to feel like. So sometimes my habit is draw two eyes, two sides together, not separate them. Draw them together so you can compare and then take care of both of them together. So we're not like isolate only one to draw. So, but it's not just like a symmetrical shape. It's needed to consider the size different. This size bigger, this size is smaller, and sometimes for this side, you see it's thinner, and this side is thicker because of different structure, right? Different side. So this is the way. And then draw the nose. When your nose, make sure it's not just like a stick. You need to see the structure of the bone. Structure of the bone is more like a very bony shape. So I'm actually drawing that structure now. So you can see the structure of the nose. Okay, you need to remember this kind of structure. Even you not don't using the photo. Even you draw a girl, you know that the inside structure could be more subtle shape, but you need to understand this kind of structure existing. So,
Professor,
mm-hmm.
would you mind zooming in a little bit, just like a little closer to the face?
uh, more close by.
Yeah, just because it's not taking up like the whole screen, it's a little hard to see.
The more close by, the difficulty is it's blocked my own view.
Oh, okay.
I cannot see it.
That's,
Myself cannot see it, so that could be a problem. But
that's a
anyway,
little better. That's
yeah,
good.
it's better. It's better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
but no problem. So compare with this. Okay, I complete this part. But sometimes when we draw the shape, it's easy to compare the shape. I call this a very little triangle shape. This shape. So we can compare this shape and to see if the shape is okay. But at that time, you see my line is a little bit rough, but don't erase it too quick. Okay, keep that. Okay, keep that. It helps you to compare each other's. It helps you to always see this related stuff. So this is the form. or his one. I feel like it should be. So actually, even I doing the cheekbone, I'm still like comparing two sides together, right? Two sides together. So you need to have a very strong networking concept of the structure. So yeah, when we draw the structure, that not means that we needed to remember the vocabularies, but we needed to more three-dimensionally understand what's the perspective situation and what's the way they related. So okay, so I'm doing that. So sometimes I correct my shape. I was doing a little too big and make it smaller. So I call this kind of method is kind of like a structural way. So okay, so now I draw the forehead part. Here. At the beginning, we not actually do too much on the hair, just to mark this relation of the forehead and the starting line of the hair, and to see two side structure. And when we draw the ear, usually also start from the outside shape first, then divide into the middle. And I use to check this form. Usually start from a big form and then check the small form. So this is the regulation to find the detail shape. And sometimes when we draw the neck, we can align the neck line over horizontally. Align this horizontally so you can see that on my picture, let's go to like a lower line of the frame, iframe. So probably it could be a little bit higher. So this was a mistake. A little bit higher. And this side also I can align it. Eyes. So my trace is here. Here's the armpit. So clavicle bone here. And you can see that this form. So you can compare with that photo I sent you. You can compare that with my work to see. So this is a very beginning step. So probably you still remember that I divide the face into two parts, front side and the side, front and the side. So you can see that separated. And also you can check this line to see this line is correct or not. See that line? It helps you to correct the shape. Also, I can see here is a little more skinnier. Okay, so this is the almost the first step of outlining. So probably you understand that it's not just a contour line, but it's more like structure line. With the perspective understanding, you need to address that on this step. So don't too much rush to go to feature detail line. sometimes even if you catch the feature detail line, does not mean the structure is correct. It's very important to find this structure itself, and check the whole thing, not just the detailed small line. And now I'm going to look into details to work on the features. So of course, usually we start with drawing the eyes, drawing the eyes. Yeah, sometimes my habit is not just the outline, but sometimes the shading together with the line, because sometimes you need to find the thickness of each line. Sometimes you can see it's big, sometimes it's small. You need to compare them each other so that you can see that details. Yeah, also combine them together with other structure. So also I like to draw. If I draw this part here, I also would like to draw another eye together with it. Together with it. And then because my camera a little bit block my view, so I have to go more more middle. Check. I could draw the draw apples and pupils together. So sometimes you need to check both sides when you draw eyes, not just to draw one side. So probably I feel like my eye could be a little more bigger, so I try to move it out a little bit more. Okay. And then I would add shading together. Then I draw the nose. So when I draw nose, it's divided into the side and the front. I put the side the darkness. shadow. So sometimes when you do the shading, you can do keep the light part. You don't have to do too much of the light part, and then the gray part, and then the dark part. So usually like three different color for different faces. It's most three-dimensional way to draw. And then draw the mouse. So when we draw the mouse, we also can see, we need to see that different face. This side is light, this side is dark. So the whole part of this needs to be dark. So actually the shape of the mouth is very organic. You cannot see a regular form. So you need to check into details. So each one is different. So this one is this side. And the lower part of the lip, although it's a red color, but actually it's actually very much under the lighting. So sometimes you need to keep this part light. Don't make it too dark. It's very often mistake that people consider drawing lip like dressing up look, like a makeup look. So don't do it like a makeup. So you need to keep this light, not drawing on it. Okay. I found that the chain I did a little bit. So when I do this step, I make it small, cut it a little bit smaller. Okay, now I join the face. The features don't have to be very detailed. They usually like a separate light and dark. That's pretty enough for this step.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so like if you overdrew a certain area, like the chin, for instance, would you erase the part that you overdrew when you redrew it? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Try not to erase too quick because if you erase it, of course you correct it, but the things that sometimes if you leave that, it's good to help you to always review what happened, and it always helps you to mark that what was the problem, and you can compare them each other's. Okay, so you don't have to very quickly erase. Some people drawing, they always erase, and they feel like they want to hit the point just one time, but they never hit the point in one time, right? So that is important. I also needed to emphasize on that. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. So yeah, actually, when we draw, you know that when we draw a box, look at the size. It's pretty not too big, but actually when we shading the color on it, the shape size will be changed because there's some of the illusion going on. It's a very much very much often situation like when you do the shading on it, the shape feel like not really like you expected. Okay, so in that case you could change. You have to change something. That's usual. You don't feel like worried. You don't feel like you have to correct everything. Okay, so the black and white switching when we join the drawing process, we're filling the color will be changed, and you have to adjust it. Usually, drawing is easier, but when we do painting, actually the whole process is correcting, yourself process, right? Unless some people drawing from like use the grid to or like a special technique to catch the shape, but of course that's easier, right? But the regular drawing process, like drawing from life, you have to face to that kind of challenge. Okay, so now I'm working on the facial part. And now I feel like the air could be a little bit move inside, so it's usual situation. So this side, I will add the shading for it. Add the shading. I'll add more details for this side, so we'll not get it flattened. I will do that later. And when I do demonstration, you can feel like a little bit more dramatically faster. The shading is a lot faster, more rapid. That's because of the demonstration, because I have a time limit, right? So the actual drawing process you are doing will take a longer time. So don't have to be like this. So okay. So now talk about the hair drawing. So at the very beginning, when we draw the hair, we need to still consider of the volume situation. So basically, we need to divide it into different phases to light and dark, right? So although in the light part, it's so-called light, but actually you see the picture is dark. But we still need to tell the different phases for the dark part. For example, for this light part, this is a little dark piece, and here is another dark piece. So when I do shading for this piece, I'm not so much focusing on the texture of the hair, but more like just to tell the different volume situation. So you can see the light, a little gray, and a much darker. You can see this kind of division is most important, right? So also he has on the hair. So this part was the first time I suggested move it up, right? So now I'm doing the shading to cover it. And actually, you don't have to erase it. When you do the shading, it disappears, huh? Right. So now this was the first step for hair, and now the second step, I can add in the texture for the hair. And this time the line need to be more follow the structure, more follow the texture and the structure. Right? It looks more like natural. If you draw on the white paper, not so much suggest you to use the white color to draw, but it's easier to feel this kind of texture and the color from the hatching skill. So when you're doing the hatching, you can see the gap between the dark lines, and you can see the line. You can see the white line. So this is the way to draw here. So now I feel like this part is too light. Now I can add this more dark. Maybe you look at the photo, you feel like ear is not that dark, right? But if you look at the whole world, it needed to be blended into the dark color. Now I feel like maybe it's necessary to erase this part, the clean shape, because this part is a light part, so that will need it light. Okay, so this is the about the second phrase steps of the drawing. So like first one is like structurally to find the shape. The second one is adding the darkness to the different shapes. Now I'm going to do the third step is more detailed. But of course, more detailed drawing will take a longer time since this is the demonstration. I'm not work on it too much. At the beginning, you can erase away this something you don't need. Okay, then you can start. But this step, of course, will encounter more half-tone shadings. Will take a longer time. But you know that based on this, the current one, it's not too bad. It's not so difficult. So you can add in the small shading line. You also could sharpen your pencil and make it a much more good quality line. Sometimes you use the kneaded eraser. It's good for you to check this on this shape. More clear. I can look into it. So this kind of shading is like a half tone together with the dark part, or together with dark part. And mostly the shading need to follow the structure to draw. So if this shape, you can see the skin texture. Sometimes you can follow with that. It's not so much necessary to switch different type of pencil because for several hours work, we can just use the same pencil. I did not change any pencils. of course, there are more details in his forehead. There's wrinkles, very interesting, like emotional expressions and this kind of details. But I will not do too much here now. But after the demonstration, probably I can do more to complete it or post it when I complete it. So also cross-hatching for the nose. Don't consider the top of the nose should be most light. Sometimes they can give more details. I think there are more details for that. And sometimes you can see the light part only a little bit here. You can see here a little bit light. I leave it. I use the eraser to put the light. But others, like this situation, this part is not really white. So you still can adding more lines of the shading for that. This part a little more light, so I can erase it, give it more light. Yeah, we always need to compare them each other's. Like if I beginning I do not so much work on here, but then when I already adding this, and then when I compare, this part is more darker than the rest of parts. So I'm adding this more. So you always need to back and forth to correct the darkness. Erase this part just from outline process. I'm still correcting the shape, much more skinny here. These wrinkles I will add more after the demonstration. We'll add more. Probably will add more details. Sometimes you can restate the outline of the hair. The good one is not really like a very curvy line. Sometimes we need even the hair part, we need to give it a little bit square looking, right? A square looking edge will make it more three-dimensional, like more different faces, more detailed, and not just a totally soft circle line for that. And also in the dark part, we look into that. Of course, we can add in more details. Adding more details. This line, I show you a little more detail. The neck part, You need to see different face. This side, the side of the neck. This will go to the bottom of the neck. So this part a little more darker. All right, so this is the third step. But actually, it will take a longer time for visual drawing, not a demonstration. So it take a longer time, and you can add in, like you probably see that before the part more gray color, and but when I draw this part, I need to give it more detailed drawing. Will go together with shading, half tone, detail, small line. It will take a longer time, but I will not do it right now because this is demonstration. So you'll know that this process will take more details. Also, this face, adding more detailed shading necessary, and also when you draw more detail in this dark part, also we can tell some part a little bit darker, some part much more lighter, and also the different clearance. Sometimes we put these core area, we call the edge between the light and dark, more detailed. But the more far away from the core area, from, for example, here and there, we're not adding too much detail, so that it's the key of the work. People more easy to be attracted to this area, and so that can enhance that kind of three-dimensional function. So this process actually takes unlimited time. So I just skip that. So I just suppose like I already complete the third step. Okay. So the last step is have a big looking of your work, compare with your photo, or compare with your model, to go back to your impression of your work. So I can add in more front, so you can see more details. But yeah, okay. So maybe this way. Okay, so look at the whole work. So let's see, oh, for example, I feel like, oh, here, this part need to be more darker. So the last step is to adjust this, adding something. Even you already did lots of details, you still needed to check the whole work to see this kind of relation. So sometimes if it's not a class assignment, you can have a rest for yourself for like overnight, and the next day using a very fresh eyes to take a look of your work. Usually it helps you to very instantly to find what are the problems you have, or what do you need to adjust your work. So usually this step of the adjustments is still necessary. That helps you to adjust the whole work to get the best function. Okay.